my whole career has been spent between mental health and older adults. So I'm practicing in older adults. We're at Washington University. We have a huge clinic, thank goodness, on a couple other sites that we go to. But we also see people in the community, in their homes. A lot of older seniors for home assessments, home safety, things like that. But it's not home health, right? We can just go, we come into people's homes to actually, we do better work if we're in your environment and we're asking you to change something or making recommendations. So that's kind of what we do. Either way, I'm gonna get going on this, and I'll pace it out, and I'll try to point out some features, and I hope you can see everything. Okay, so can you all see that then? So our objectives today, we're just gonna learn a little bit about brain anatomy, understand how it changes as we age, right? We're going to talk about how to optimize your brain health through your daily activities, and I can tell you right now, you're already doing one thing. You're coming out and you're engaging and learning new things, so y'all are on the right track. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how well-being supports overall health and brain health. Everything's a little different here, so let me see if okay. Aging in your brain, differences over time. So this one's always kind of fun. Things we notice as time passes. I love to start with this one. So we notice small changes. Where did I leave my keys? Anybody do that? Yay. Here's a good one. This is a brand new one we've had to put in over the last couple of years because everybody has cell phones. Where's my phone? And if your spouse or your partner or somebody else in your household has another phone, I don't know how many, I'll bet you everybody in this room says, can you call me? And I hope my phone ringer is up so I can hear it. Okay, so we're leaving things, we're not able to find things, we're doing a few other things. Why did I come in here? All right, that's something that I think everybody's probably done. Typically most people will go, why did I come in here? Some people will retrace their steps and go back out again, and then walk back in again. But it's one of those things that happens, and we notice that. Or what were you doing? What's their name? What's his or her name? I just met somebody, and I used to be able to remember names, but not anymore, okay? Or, remember that last restaurant we went to? What was the name of that restaurant? Okay, really good. So, what should we do this weekend? Who goes around in circles with whoever you're living with? Like, what do we do this weekend? What would you like to do? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? You go around in circles and you don't get decisions made. You just kind of keep going around and around and around. Okay? Yeah. Learning something new might take a little longer, especially if it's complicated. Okay, complex things are really hard to learn with aging brains. And then coping with change, especially in routines that might be, a little different, and you might become more easily frustrated if you have to do a major routine change. Any other examples of things that you notice or have noticed? You can probably start noticing these things in your 40s, all right? I mean, it just happens. It happens gradually, but it happens earlier than what most people think. Any other examples? Yeah, let's hear it. Did I take my pills this morning? That's a good one. How many of you guys use pill organizers that kind of you can go and tell you, yeah. Or did I take them twice last night? Am I a day ahead? Did I shut the garage door? Yeah. Or you call back home and go, hey, can you go out and see if I shut the door? Yeah, you got anybody else? Where are my glasses? She's got 6 pairs of readers, 1 in each room, and you still can't find them, right? I'm glad I'm not the only one that has readers everywhere, right? And then you find that they're laying under something, right? Ah, there they are. All right, good. Great, yeah, so we're all kind of living with some things like that, and it's pretty normal. All right, so here's some common changes that we can experience. Most of what you're going to experience with an aging brain are the things that are bolded. Memory and attention become a little bit more difficult, takes a little bit more concentration. And then processing speed your ability to kind of take information, sensory information in through your brain and kind of process what it means starts to slow down too. I'm gonna put all of these up just real quick. Okay, so here are some good examples. Analyzing information, especially if there's a lot of it and a lot of data that you have to kind of process and put through. Okay, planning, tasks, events. Sometimes it's difficult to get started. That's initiation. That's kind of an executive function thing. We'll get into some of those things. Organizing your life space and your environment, just kind of keeping it organized. Okay. Scheduling appointments, dates, vacations. I know so many people. How many people use actually a planner, like a hand planner or a calendar system? Yeah. Anybody use electronic, your phone or something? Some people have multiples, it looks like. Right. How many like the physical one that you can touch and look at and carry? Yeah, good. I think they actually work better. You have something you can look at. It's just a matter of syncing them up with your phone then if that's what you're going to do. So executing tasks, especially newer, complex ones. Where do you start? Okay. Most people I know will either engage with another person or a group of people to actually kind of dive into something that's pretty complicated. Challenges with verbal fluency, finding the right words, right? You go somewhere and you're looking for that word. Oh, guess what? You can't find it. It's up there. It's just buried in your brain. And it comes back out of the file at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? When you're trying to sleep, it goes, oh, there's what that word, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so just word finding. And then saying things that others might find offensive. Probably should have kept that to yourself. Okay, speaking your mind when you maybe should keep it to yourself. What's that? That's the comment was, I think we've earned that. And I think there's probably a common sentiment about, hey, I've made it this far. I can say whatever I want. I'm not afraid to actually hurt your feelings. And oh, I'm so sorry. I hurt your feelings. Get over it. They don't what? Because I don't care. I don't care anymore. So true. And then jump into conclusions. That was the last one on this list. It's one of those that actually there's a tendency to make judgments a little quicker without all the information. And there's a tendency to make those judgments based on emotional kinds of information or your emotions, right? Okay, so this is the one where we're going to kind of look at some things. Let me see if I can, we're going to start from the outside in, and then we're going to talk about some pathways. So you probably have seen this before or something similar, right? This is what your brain actually kind of looks like. Oh, different colors than what's on my screen. Fascinating. You've got a whole bunch of lobes. It's the cortex that we're looking at. There's all kinds of folds in there. There's all kinds of curves in there. It's all kinds of brain matter. But you've got a frontal lobe. And then you've got a parietal, temporal, and occipital. So frontal's in the front, parietal's on the side, temporal's right here, occipital's in the back. Okay, and they all kind of do some different things. The one in the front right here is probably the newest and most developed, and it's the one that, it's a part of your brain that kind of does the command of the frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex, all that executive function that we'll eventually get down into talking about. Okay, then there's, oh my goodness. Here's some things deep inside your head. I'm gonna show you a picture comparing the two of them in a minute. What you're seeing right now is a much older part of the brain that was actually developed a lot. It develops earlier on before the outer parts do. And you have, it's the limbic system. So you've got a hippocampus in there, which is associated with memory. So if folks are actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's or something, that's a part of their brain that is damaged. You've got the amygdala, which is the fear center. And it's taking information in. All this part of your brain is taking information in from all over, and it's basically kind of setting up a circuitry, or it's talking to other parts of your brain. And so this one is the one that's responsible. The amygdala is for the fight or flight. You know, you get really freaked out, and your body just takes over. Okay. You got the hypothalamus, which has, it's kind of a, it really actually looks at metabolic processes, but it's so subconscious. You can't consciously control it. It just is on autopilot. All of these things are on autopilot. You got the thalamus, which is a big relay station. It's like the exchange station. It brings information in from here, from here, from here, from the back here. It decides on kind of what's going on, and then it sends signals back out again. Okay? And you have a cingulate cortex, which is mostly kind of the combination of everything that controls your emotions in learning, and goal setting, and doing. Okay? So just a quick picture of inside and out. So you can see all that stuff in the darker color right there in the middle. It's taking information in actually from all the places on the outside. It goes into there, it processes through, then it goes back out, and then it turns into behavior, actions, thoughts, those kinds of things. Yeah, I don't know. This one's hard to see. This is just a picture of how the neurons talk to each other, but you can't really see it. Your brain runs on electricity. It's an electrical chemical kind of system, and chemicals. It travels down what we call part of a neuron. You can't see it right down there very well, but it's at this bottom picture here, where the nerve signal travels. Here's the nerve cell. It travels right there. It then sends a signal across a little teeny tiny gap called the synapse. It's just fluid. And then it goes across and it connects with another neuron. You have millions of interneurons in your brain. Okay, that's the bottom line. And then they all basically transmit signals to each other. You know what? We'll have a copy of this. You can get it emailed to you so you have a better view, because the pictures on here are much different than what you're seeing. Okay. Okay. Oh, you can see this one kind of. These are neural pathways. So remember that little part in the middle of your brain that we were talking about, the deeper part, and it's getting ready to talk to the outer part of your brain? These are just this is just one of the main axes or the main pathways, like a highway, right? Your brain has highways in it. And highways either have nerve impulses kind of traveling on them. Now I'm going to layer it a little bit. I'm going to talk about neurotransmitters, okay? So I said the brain functions by sending signals, correct? And they can either excite your neurons to fire, they can inhibit and say calm down, or they can kind of modulate the activity, faster, slower, things like that, okay? They come from deeper parts of your brain. The neurotransmitters actually have certain bodies in your brain where they're actually kind of made or created, and then they travel to other parts of your brain. So I know you've probably heard of these, and the reason why I'm talking about neurotransmitters is because when they make medicines, a lot of times the medicines they make or they develop actually influence some of these neurotransmitters, okay? So you've got adrenaline. Anybody hear of adrenaline before? Yeah, you have? Okay, right. Fight or flight, kind of you get an adrenaline rush and you're really like wired up. Okay, GABA is more calming. All right, noradrenaline, concentration. Adrenaline and noradrenaline are both kind of coming from a very similar area. One is kind of getting your body ready. The other one's getting your brain ready to respond to some kind of urgent thing that's happening. Acetylcholine is actually related to learning, okay? You got dopamine, okay? Related to pleasure and reward seeking. You got glutamate, which helps your memory. You got serotonin. Everybody's probably heard of serotonin and moods, mood stabilizers. And then endorphins, which is kind of feeling that high of feeling good. There's no test on this. You don't have to remember it. I'm hoping this one comes out. Okay. So you remember I showed you those brain pathways before, right? So here's all these neurotransmitters, these chemical signals, and here's where they're traveling in your brain, always. They're constantly going. And you can see they go all over. So they're really kind of the main pathway and the main travel system and the main messaging system in your brain. Just as fascinating to actually see some of it. Okay. This one, oh man, you can't see the picture again. This is a CSTC loop, okay? It just goes from your cortex out to the deeper part of your brain. So it's going from here inside, and then it loops back again. So you've got something that's going, a loop that's going this way. So you have a lot of stuff going from here, from the inside out, and then you've got some stuff that's going from the outside in, and it just loops behind you. It loops all around. Okay, so a couple of areas that it really hits is emotional regulation and your ability to change behaviors in response to some cues. So have you ever had a situation where you had to kind of change your reaction or change your behavior? You see something and you go, oh, don't do that, do this. That's kind of what's happening with it. And then this one is called the HPA axis. The reason why I bring this up is it's related to stress, okay? And it's just like another cycle where if you get into a loop, you continue to have these stress hormones, and it's a hormone, but cortisol is a hormone. You continue to loop around. And I bring it up because stress is one of those things that we always talk about, but it's really hard to manage, okay? People think they have it managed, and then you realize, oh my God, I am more stressed than what I think I am. And it can have an effect on your health. Okay, so enough of that neurology, right? Let's get into some real stuff. I'm gonna pull it all up. Okay, so what happens as you age? The mass just decreases. Your brain actually just atrophies. Everything just about that's living atrophies as it ages, okay? So you have gray matter, so the volume decreases. Your gray matter, those little, you couldn't see the cells, those neuron cells I was showing you. There was like a cell, it's got some fingers coming off of it, and then there's a long kind of like a tail, it's called an axon, that actually transmits, so you got the gray matter in your cell, and that long tail that transmits is an axon, okay? So your cell bodies actually decrease. You just lose cells, brain cells. It happens. White matter, actually, they decrease too. So the white matter is what actually the brain impulses kind of travel through. And when you have fewer of them, you just process information more slowly, all right? And then ventricles, so you have spaces in your brain that just contain fluid, and they actually get bigger. So the white matter, the myelin sheath, those axons, again, they just get old and they don't work as well. And then the density of the outer layer of the brain actually it thins out. So how do hormones and neurotransmitters change? Okay, so you just see a reduction. So we talked about the dopamine. It's got motor function, memory, reward, attention. So anybody knows somebody might have some Parkinson's kinds of things going on? Right, so you see some real reduction in dopamine with Parkinson's, okay? Serotonin, mood and sleep. You get less serotonin input, so you might see some mood and some sleep disturbances. And then glutamate just has to do a lot with learning and metabolism, so you see a reduction of that. So, and then hormones, the thing that is interesting, we all know that sex hormones decrease, but the one thing that does increase is your cortisol, which means that, remember that stress circle that I was showing you? That actually becomes a little stronger as you age, and it gets a little bit more difficult to manage, okay? And then melatonin is another thing that drops off a little bit, and so that can actually affect your sleep, at least falling to sleep. We do a really neat talk on sleep. Probably going to do that until next year, right? But if you have a chance to come to that, it's actually a pretty fun one to do. Okay, so here's a young brain versus an older brain, okay? Young is on your left, older is on your right. What do you see? What's the difference? This is good for your brain. Brain exercise, show you the difference, right? Yeah. So if you see at the top, if I had a pointer, I could show you, but at the top, that's the pretty clear one. You see a lot more space up there, a little more black up there at the very, very top on B. Your cortex is, you've had some thinning, you've got some more fluid in there, okay? You got a little less over here and a lot more mush over here. Here's another one that's interesting. You can't see it. Oops. Sorry about that. I think on your handouts, if you'll be able to pull it up on your computer or something like that, and you'll be able to see it, the color. But this is just showing a brain that is an Alzheimer's brain versus a healthy brain. And I think you can probably see it right here. You can just see how it's a little bit more shriveled, like a dried prune almost. It's more shriveled up, doesn't have as much mass, doesn't look as full and plump, okay? And then you get down in the bottom, so you can't see it very well, but the whole cell body has been kind of interrupted with plaques and tangles, and it basically leads it to cell death. So that's kind of what happens with the Alzheimer's. All right. Again, just another set of pictures. The very top is a healthy brain. You can see it's mostly blue, okay? Then you've got some mild cognitive impairment where you're starting to see some yellows kind of pop in there, just where things aren't working well. And then you get down at the very bottom row, you'll see some Alzheimer's in certain areas of your brain, especially kind of right over here, kind of the sense-making part of your brain right there. It's bringing in information from the environment and processing it through and then telling you what to do. So that's pretty impacted. Okay, so a summary of just what I did. You have brain mass, you have processing speed. There's not a lot, really, just reduced attention. Transmitter flow is lower, especially dopamine, serotonin, glutamate. And then melatonin drops, too, for sleep. And then you're still having a little bit more, you have an increase, actually, in cortisol. And probably a little less ability to manage it as well. Okay, so we're going to start doing executive function now. You probably can't see this one very good either, but it's we're going to talk more about this whole part right over here on this part of your brain, right? The newer part that's developed. That's kind of the command center, so to speak. Okay, so what is it? How many people have heard of executive function in the first place? It's a fancy-dancy word for thinking and problem solving and planning and all that good stuff, right? They're higher level cognitive functions. That's basically it. Okay, so here's some key ones. So inhibition. I'm just going to go through some of the categories in executive functions. So you got inhibition, right? The ability to control impulses, manage your attention. So your ability to actually block out stimuli that make no sense to you or that you don't need if they're not relevant. The ability to bite your tongue when you maybe should bite your tongue. The ability to stop any other kind of inappropriate behavior. Then you got working memory, which is really huge in problem solving, right? So working memory is the ability to just basically bring something in and hold it in your brain because you're going to need it in another 3 to 5 minutes and then to be able to pull it back out and use it, okay? Cognitive flexibility is being able to just be adaptive from a thinking point of view. A good example maybe of that is the ability to accept other people's points of view and be able to see how other people see things. Also just to be able to switch the way that you're doing something as well, okay? You have some more planning and organization. That makes pretty much sense, doesn't it? That's pretty concrete for everybody because we do that our whole life. It's just plan and organize. Initiating an activity, initiating any kind of a task. That, if people are really deeply embedded in routines that are overlearned, typically you continue to do your daily routines pretty easily. Typically what will happen is you'll see ADLs that are pretty stable because they're so overlearned. Y'all remembered how to put on a shirt, right, or a pair of pants, or go to the bathroom. It's not something that you actually really forget because you've done it a ton. But maybe one of the first things that might go is more of your instrumental activity of daily living. And what we see is math and finances and things like that that people really struggle with. That becomes kind of an issue. Time management, being able to basically in time management, it's really your ability to predict and project how long something might take, and then to pace yourself, which is the next piece of it is the self-monitoring. Being able to actually monitor what you're doing, make changes if you need to, and then move ahead, okay? And emotional management and attention. Emotional management is being able to identify those emotions that kind of are bubbling up underneath you and to actually do something with them. And then attention is just managing what you're seeing and blocking some stuff out. Okay, here's your chance to do something. If you have a pencil and a piece of paper or a pen and a piece of paper or something to write on, hey, can you time this for me? Yeah, time it. We're gonna start. We're gonna time you for a minute, and here are the rules. Okay, I'm gonna give you a letter of the alphabet. I want you to write down as many words that start with that letter that you can. Okay, but you can't use names. Okay, you can't use multiple variations of a word, like big, biggest, bigger. Okay, that's cheating. They have to be separate. Okay. So are you guys about ready? I'm going to give you the letter. I want you to do B. As many words that start with B. All right, stop. All right. Now you get to count your words. How many did you write down? How many do we have? 7? 12? 14? 6? 21? 19? 22? All right. Big variety, right? Okay. So what executive function did you use when you did that? You did memory, right? Because you had to remember a whole bunch of words. What else did you use? Attention. Yeah, I did that on purpose. She said, attention, because you started talking. Okay, I was doing that on purpose. Kind of tried to manage your stress a little bit when I said, oh, you got 30 seconds left, 25, 24, all right? Yeah, so even just that piece of it, these are familiar words that you had, and you had to pull them out of your memory, and then you had to remember the rules, and then you had to write it down, which is a whole motor thing that your brain has done for years. But it's very complicated and a very complex task. This was also kind of an example of verbal fluency too, is how many words can you find in your brain, okay? And this particular one did come from I think it's from the MOCA, I can't remember. It's from a cognitive test that they give you typically if you're gonna go in to see, if you're gonna get tested for a dementia or something like that, this would be part of one of those. So it's really kind of a fun game to play though. If you have a little egg timer and you can have people around the table and everybody gets to pick a letter and actually go through some alphabets together and see who can come up with the most. When you do it more and more and more and more, you get the pump kind of primed and you actually get better at it typically. So something to do. Thanksgiving's coming up, all right. You can do T words, H words, or P for pumpkin. This is a slide that just talks a little bit about, executive function can be impacted by a lot of what we experience with chronic diseases and different kinds of disease states. I'm not going to spend too much time, but most of these actually can impact executive function and thinking, basically either through less oxygen going to your brain, too much or too little glucose going through your brain, and other kinds of neurotransmitters. So just be aware that anytime you're dealing with something that's really chronic and you're trying to manage your health, there's always this opportunity for you to hopefully engage in some things that'll keep your brain sharp. Okay. All right, things you can do. Here we go. Focus on well-being. I know you guys probably get tired of hearing this, but there's so much evidence out there. I think you're going to hear for the next 10 years a lot about the brain. There's all kinds of things on the internet. We got internet surfers here? Everybody, mostly? Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful. You can get into some chats and some AI kinds of stuff. I think most people are probably getting AI summaries now. We didn't have to go and look everything up, but you just have to kind of be careful with it. But there are studies that people who are really well balanced and have a really good positive emotional state of being actually have better immune functioning, actually recover easier, more quickly from surgeries that they might have, and then actually live a little longer, okay? Oops, all right. I don't know if you can see this. Oh yeah, I guess you can. So there's all kinds of scales out there on well-being too. This is just the one we use. I think if you compared and contrasted, you're gonna find most of them cover the same kinds of things. They cover emotions, some kind of meaningful engagement in activity, stuff that means something to you, believe it or not. I know this stuff your grandmothers probably, and your grandfathers are probably telling you when you're about this big, but we have to prove it in science now. Spirituality, relationships, physical health, and those are 3 components of physical health. We'll get into that a little bit. And then knowing yourself. All right, positive emotions. This is so powerful. All right, this is true confessions, and you don't have to actually confess. How many glass full people do I have here today? How many people who believe or have the glass full optimistic attitude? Yay, I know you did, because you said, yeah, it looks good. I couldn't even see it. Right, okay. How many people are glass half empty? You don't have to, don't be embarrassed. You can be that kind of person if you want to. All right. So positive emotions is all about that, okay? All about being able to reframe, reshift how you see the world, how you interpret it, in a way that actually helps you feel better, helps your emotions calm down a little bit, and helps you basically get through life, all right? Now I realize there's lots of huge stressors that people can have in their life. Here's what I hear a lot though from people is, you've heard the word, well, that was a blessing. Even if it was a really negative kind of thing that happened, people are shifting their frame and go, but it was a blessing that this happened and it was helpful. We just had somebody resign yesterday. And we've been worried about this person because it just seemed like she just wasn't doing well, but she was getting to the point where she's probably going to be terminated anyway. But it came out in the group when we were talking about it. The leadership team was saying, but it was a blessing. This person really needed to get another job. They really needed to be in a different environment for their own mental health. And they finally found something, so they did something about it. So it just got totally turned around. This person who did resign basically said, wait a minute, I'm struggling. I need something different. I'm going to find something that fits better for me. That's what positive emotions and positive activity is all about. How many people have done any gratitude practice? Know what it is? Gratitude? It's amazing. You have to do it every day for it to work really well, but it's really easy to do. It takes less than 5 minutes. But it does take active thinking. You have to think about it, right? You can't just go, oh yeah, here, I'm going to do it, and blah, blah, blah. You have to ponder it. But basically, you're writing down or talking about or doing something concrete. It works best if you either write it down or do something concrete that you're grateful for. And what you're doing when you do that is you're searching your brain, going, what was I grateful for today? Okay, so you're actually facilitating some of those mood neurotransmitters, okay, serotonin. And then you're basically looking at the positive side of it. Okay, so here's a practice that you can do. Mindfulness is another thing that helps. I'll get into the practice in a second, but anybody do mindfulness? Understand it? You do? Yeah. So mindfulness is just kind of being here and being now and accepting what's happening without any emotion, okay? So you just basically say, this is happening, I accept it, and now I can just move on. But you just accept it. It's a little hard, but when you accept, then you can take action. You can move past it, especially with negative kinds of things that might happen. If you just get into the frame where you can actually accept it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, okay? Because sometimes things hurt, and sometimes things do often hurt. But you can accept it, and eventually it heals and you move on, okay? And then meditation is just something that's been around for many, many years that really helps. And that's a little bit more of a zero, like a real laser focus. But there's also that breath part, that working breath part that actually changes kind of the metabolic rate in your body because you've got a lot of oxygen coming in. You're holding taking a deep breath, holding it for a few minutes, letting it out real slow, and it actually is a really good way to calm yourself down. Anybody do box breathing? Yeah, you know what box breathing is? Yeah, you breathe in like for 4, you hold it on 4, you breathe out on 4, and then after you exhale, you hold that exhale for 4, and you do that for 5 or 6 times. You know, it really makes a huge difference when you're stressed out the next time. Okay, so here's what you can try to do. You can try to do just some gratitude practice. So you can write down, you know, one thing that you learned during the day. It's always fun because learning is really critical. Every day, you need to actually walk away and go, I learned this today, okay? That's what it's all about. We have to, if we're aging, we have to continue to learn, period. Okay? One thing that inspired you. What was inspiring about today that you did, you saw, somebody you met? I have lots of people who inspire me. It's just amazing to me. I'm particularly impressed by people who have been through a lot, who have managed to demonstrate some grit and resiliency, and who have come right through it with smooth sailing. And I know that they've been through some pain, and I know that they've been through some trauma, but they've made it through. And I'm super inspired by folks like that. And then one thing you're grateful for. What are you grateful for? Okay? I'm grateful for my cat, even though he leaves fur everywhere. Okay. Let me pull all of this up real quick. All right, meaningful activities. As an occupational therapist, this has been my whole life, it makes so much common sense, doesn't it? That, believe it or not, people kind of get into routines where they're engaged in activities that maybe don't mean as much. They either have to do it, it's expected of them socially, or they do it, they don't like it for some reason. There's a lot of social pressure, whatever. Anyway, you need to have at least 1 or 2 every day that really mean a lot to you, that give you some gratification, because that really kind of soothes your soul, so to speak. Okay. I always try to help people understand too that learning new activities, how do you know if something's meaningful if you haven't actually learned something new? So try to learn something new. I think you'll find that the learning part, some people may give up because they have to concentrate or it gets really frustrating, but when you have that breakthrough and you've learned something new, boom, there you go. There's a little bit of satisfaction that goes with that. Okay. And having a balance of active and passive activities helps, and having a balance of me activities versus I'm going to help you activities really makes a difference too. So maybe for the next couple of weeks, see how balanced your activity pattern is. You guys are all out here. You're taking notes, which I'm fabulously impressed with. That's good. That's really good for your brain to take notes. But see if it's balanced and see if you want to do something different. Do most people in the room, are your activities influenced by the weather? Right? Yeah, big time. Yeah, like if you're outdoors and you like to golf, forget it. Well, maybe today might be a good day though. Or if it's raining or snowing. I used to do groups with these kind of like well-being groups, and they're people with who are mobility challenged. You know, they have wheelchairs and they're taking the public transportation system. Anyway, whenever the weather was bad, that just made their days so terrible because they really didn't even hardly get out of bed. It was that difficult for them. Okay. Okay. And 1 to 3 activities that you like to explore. I wouldn't say do it every day, do it every month. I'd say at least a couple times a year. Sit down and go, what do I want to pursue? If not, a quarterly kind of schedule is really kind of cool because then it goes kind of with the seasons, and you can try to do some things like that. Okay, spirituality. This is super, super personal for everybody. It can mean belonging to a religious organization. It can mean belonging to a group of people. It can mean spending time outdoors by yourself in nature. It can mean different things to different people. The idea is that you have the idea in a real big way is that you are not the only person carrying a burden. There is some higher level of being that you can just let go to. You just let go, okay? You can't control. If there's anything, if anybody's had any counseling, one of the first things they're probably going to tell you is do not put energy into things you can't control. Go ahead and accept those things. a lot of people like us try to put energy into things we can't control. But it's really basically kind of you're just spinning your wheels doing that. Anyway, with spirituality, you have to figure out what it means to you. Yeah, you can't have anybody like me or a family member. It's your own personal relationship and what does it mean to you, okay? All right. I think I talked about some of the other things. Some people find volunteering is a really good way to reach that, is giving back, and there's a lot of research in that area too. So we'll get into relationships a little bit. I know that you probably all have heard being social, having support, getting out, having at least one person, a couple people that actually you can depend on who like you for you, is very, very important to longevity, and then emotional well-being. So lots of research behind that too. I have in the handout itself, there's actually a whole bunch of references that you can actually click on. But types of social support that I want to make sure that you're aware of. One is emotional, just somebody to listen, okay? Somebody to say, gosh, I'm sorry you're having a bad day today. Oh, I'm sorry it hurts so bad. Not telling you you should do this, you should do that, just somebody to sit. Even if it's just somebody to sit when you're hurting or you don't feel good, okay? You need practical help. Somebody to change the light bulb. Somebody to help me do this, somebody to get the leaves out of my gutter. Can you help me with the laundry, or can you do this, do that, whatever. You need some kind of way to share points of view with other people. This is really good mental work to do because it helps your cognitive flexibility. You can listen to other points of view who are different, they're different from yours. I challenge you to do that because a lot of people, the first thing they want to do is start blasting their point of view. And the idea is to listen and to try to get into their perspective and see it how they see it. It's really good brain work, okay? And then sharing information and news. This just keeps you up on what's happening, okay? Coming here helps. I don't know if there's a lot of sharing of information. I guess you guys come to these a lot. Do you guys know each other very well? You sit with each other? Maybe, yeah, small groups? No? No? Okay. So you're kind of like a parallel group. Everybody's here. You're here for one thing, but you don't really know each other. Okay. Well, today, sharing information or news is, yikes. Maybe there's overload on news. Does anybody just shut the news off? Yeah, just shut it off. It becomes emotionally draining. Cut it. I do, yeah. I make rules like, no, I'm not doing that one today. All right, here's some really important ones. Physical activity. I think you're going to hear this from everybody in the healthcare field. There's just a ton of evidence these days that it's one of the best medicines, just being physically active, okay? So how does it help your mood and appetite? Should boost your mood, should kind of decrease your appetite, depending on when you do it and what you do and how much of it you do. But even if you can't do anything, at least getting up and walking around and moving. So I work with people in their homes. They don't really do very much. They've gotten into a routine of sleep, get up, go to the bathroom, kind of get dressed, maybe after the third hour of the Today Show, but you know, eat breakfast, TV. Oh, it's lunchtime, TV, maybe nap, TV, or that. So I challenge them. It's like, okay, great, you watch TV. So why don't you at least just stand up during the commercials? Anybody ever try just standing up in the commercials? Yeah, there's a lot of commercials, aren't there? You will stand up, and if you could walk around, my husband gets up and does chores during the commercials. You know, he'll get up and I'll go load the dishwasher or do this or do that. But yeah, raid the refrigerator. Well, darn. Yeah, the refrigerator's calling. Anyway, just challenge yourself, and challenge yourself to do it as often as you can. You really should be doing about 150 minutes a week of some kind of activity, but if you're just walking, it's better than nothing, all right? It's better than just sitting around. The longer you sit, the more you lose, all right? And if you can get into a walking group, or you can at least just move around your house certain hours during the day, you should really kind of try to do that then. Okay, so I challenge people to keep a log and see what you did and how much you moved. How many people wear Fitbits or sensors or okay, so you guys all have those. Mine went out this morning when I was walking. I went, no. So I got home and I turned my app on in my phone and I went, oh no. So I still didn't know what's going on with it. Darn, I hate it when that happens. But look how you can increase your move. Fitbit, anything like that works. And you don't even need to do that. You can just say, here's my schedule. Here's the number of days I'm going to do something. Here's what I'm going to do. And try something new. That helps. Try to take a class, go swimming, whatever. Use your body. Nutrition's the other big one. I'm not going to get too much into the details of diet, but I will say it makes a huge difference to actually eat regular meals, cut down on sugar, cut down on processed foods, limit alcohol, do all these things that kind of go with the rest of your plan, moving, sleeping, drink water, actually helps. So are you getting enough protein? Are you trying to shift into good fats versus bad fats? I think part of the thing with our food industry is they're trying to help shift us away from bad fats. So some of those really tasty French fries that were around 10 years ago aren't here any longer. They don't taste as good. Water is another thing that people don't consume near as much of. We've got good water drinkers in this group. It's probably the number one thing that most people drop off the face of the earth with is, you're a good water drinker? Good for you. Yay, you got yours? You guys good water drinkers? All right, how many people drink more than 8 glasses a day? I'm impressed. Impress me. Oh my God, I love it. That's actually on my list of things to do. I don't get near enough just straight water. And it doesn't taste bad, actually, once I start it, but I don't. So keep a food journal. That second bullet is what kind of relationship do you have with food? If you struggle with food your whole life, do you eat to live, or do you live to eat? Are you a foodie? Are you somebody who's like, never hungry? Some people will, as they age, you lose that internal signal, that interoceptive signal of hunger. You know, you either don't pay attention to it, or you can't feel it or hear it as much, and tend not to eat near as much. How many people have heard, eat, you got to keep your strength up? Anybody? Okay. My grandmother used to always say that. My mother used to say, don't tell her to do that. She doesn't need to. She's got lots of strength, Mom. Yeah. Okay. And there's all kinds of apps out there if you want to track your diet. All kinds of diet. The aging diets are Mediterranean is a big one, you know, because it doesn't have a lot of high fat and animal protein. It's got a lot more plant-based kinds of stuff. All right, sleep, big. How many people sleep 8 hours a night? 6 to 8 hours. Good sleepers? Okay. How many people have woken up and gone, oh man, I feel like crap when I slept all night and I didn't get any good rest, right? Yeah. There's a thing where you can actually feel like you're sleeping and you're not rested. And if you don't get restful, restorative sleep, then you don't give your brain a chance to process emotions, process memories, and get rid of the trash in your brain. Meaning that cell bodies die. There's a little, you have to come to our sleep lecture, but there's a kind of like a trash system, removal system in your brain where when cell bodies die, then they get kind of removed out of your brain and processed through. So it's really incredibly important. Sleep hygiene, this is what you do have control of, right? It's in your ballpark. You can actually have a regular schedule of when you get up, when you go to bed. Some of the latest evidence is saying early risers or early to bed, early to rise are a little bit more healthy. You have to take that evidence and research and really look at it though. So, because I know there are people who are more late nighters who then sleep a little later and who do just fine too. So, but you have a regular schedule. You try to nap less than 30 minutes during the day. Typically, if you're really tired, maybe just a 20-minute power nap or something like that might work. I know a lot of people will do it in the middle of the day. Don't drink a lot of coffee later on. That's a no-brainer, right? Don't exercise too late. Okay. Heavy exercise, getting out. Maybe you're really wanting to walk and it's near sunset and you're really hoofing it. Don't expect to go to bed right away, because actually physical activity and exercise will increase your level of alertness. So it takes a little while for that to kind of process through your body. And then blue screen light, which is the lights from your computers, your TVs. You know, there's a lot of, limit that. Does anybody do that right now? I mean, I know so many people fall asleep in front of the TV. I'm thinking like, okay. So you can, the idea is that you shouldn't be scrolling on your phone or really looking at your computer or even watching TV. If you have sleep problems, you should try to avoid those, because they could be kind of hyperstimulating your brain a little bit. Now there are those blue light glasses. Anybody have blue light glasses? They filter out the blue light. You can buy those to, I don't know though if you can get them in different strengths. I think maybe you can, but sometimes they help. But the idea is that if you're having trouble sleeping, try to eliminate blue light, but then also try to set a regular routine and all kinds of other things. Okay. And then your context, do you sleep with your pets? Who has pets who come and wake them up in the morning? Anybody? Yeah, do you? Time to eat, time to go out? Yeah, okay. You just wake up? Oh yeah, it's time to get up, time to get up. You have one too?
I wake up the same time every day, every night, 2 o'clock in the bed. Oh, all the time.
You wake up at 2 in the morning? And how long does it take you to get back to sleep?
I do. I go back to sleep.
Good, good for you. Awesome. Yeah, you wake up at 2? Yeah. What time do you go to bed? Like 9:30, 10? Yeah, so you're kind of halfway through your sleep cycle and you wake up. A lot of people do. Is that when those words come to your brain, the ones that you couldn't think of earlier, the names and the faces, the answers? No? Okay. Anyway, you know, environmental factors like your room, is it cold, is it hot? Most people, and the science says, you know, you need to sleep in a cooler room, you know, cuddle up and get warm, but your body cools down at night, or your body cools when you're preparing to sleep, so the idea is to sleep in a cooler space. All right, here's some more things to consider. So this neuroplasticity, okay. Have you heard of the word neuroplasticity before? All right, so it's basically, you can read it, I can read it to you. It's just your brain's ability to change and adapt. So even though you may not have heard of the word, you've been doing it your whole life. You can actually train your brain cells, or you can continue to build pathways of new brain cells. So when you learn a new activity, think about when you learned to ride a bike, how you learned, you didn't know how to do it. You didn't know how it was going to feel, you know, how it was going to feel like sitting on the seat with 2 arms and 2 feet off the ground, and your balance and your eyes and your ears, and, you know, feeling the wind against your face. But you learned how to do it, right? Okay, so you learned a new skill. Driving is another thing. You learn how to do it. It's really old, and it's really deeply embedded, and so you probably aren't going to forget it. But let me ask, how many people haven't been on a bike in 10 years? Or 5, okay? How comfortable are you getting on a bike right now? No? Okay. No? Yeah? You would? Yeah? Some people would? Yeah? An e-bike? Yeah, there you go. I think if you haven't been on one for years, you might get on it and go, wait a minute here, let me see how this balance goes. But it will come back to you, because you're going to remap the path again. You're going to pave the path again. Anyway, that's what neuroplasticity is. It's just learning new activities, new things, creating new pathways. You can get there through rehabilitation. So if you've known that somebody's had a stroke, or who's actually had some kind of neurodegenerative thing happen, and they're learning to dress again, or eat again, or write again, you can actually kind of learn how to do that. You may have to adapt a little bit, and you may have to kind of do new pathways, but you can actually learn how to do some of those. Okay. The last bullet there is a sufficient sleep. Helps make changes more permanent. When you get the right kind of sleep, what happens is it actually solidifies those pathways in your brain, and it helps the memory of those. And you have different kinds of memory. You have motor memory, right? You have verbal memory. You have other kinds of sensory memories as well. Okay. So the point on this slide is that really when you're young, you have so many neurons in your brain, these little kids do before, like they're 3, and they just have this head full of too many neurons. And they actually kind of do die off in mass a little bit. But you're always able, you can always make new brain cells, okay? Your body always does that. Even as adults, you have a couple areas in your brain that still work to do that. One is in your hippocampus, which is your memory learning center. And then another area is part of your ventricles, on the ventral part of your, the lateral part of some of your ventricles that have what they call brain stem cells, right? So they have brain neuron cells that can actually be developed. So it happens, it still works, it's just slower. And there's not as many, and it's slower. So, things that help you do this, okay? Exercise, especially the huffing and puffing type of exercise. If you guys can tolerate running or swimming to where you got your heart rate up, really good. Good, good, good. It just helps oxygenate your brain and kind of move things through. Okay, diet, omega-3s, flavonoids, blueberries, making sure you get lots of those in your diet. And then learning something new, okay? Over and over. So you learn, you repeat, you get better, and then you master it, right? So once you've gotten to that part, then you do another activity where you learn, you repeat, you master it, and then you can move on. So you're not really growing as many new brain cells if you are just mastering Sudoku. I mean, you're working your brain, don't get me wrong, but you're not growing, you're just getting better at it. The learning I'm talking about is learning where you have to really concentrate and you have to think and you have to plan, and you might feel a little tired after that, okay? So that's what the new learning is that I'm talking about, okay? Some things that interfere, stress, big time, okay? It keeps the activity from actually seeding in. Poor sleep, we talked about that, and not eating a good diet. So manage your stress is my thing to tell people all the time. And it's amazing because I don't think most people can feel the stress until it's hit a level where it's pretty obvious. So most people can kind of tell if their heart rate's going a little faster, or if they're breathing a little bit more shallowly. But I don't know how many people in this room can tell kind of when their blood pressure starts to go up. Anybody gonna go to the physician and your heart rate's like they take your blood pressure and it's through the roof in your doctor's office? Do you notice that when you walk in? You probably don't notice it, right? They call it like white coat syndrome because they see it in patients all the time, but your body's kicking in. It's like, oh my God, here's this, I'm in this place, there might be something wrong with me, or I hope I'm okay, I don't know what they're gonna say. You don't know if you're telling yourself that or not, but your body's going like, new situation, uh-oh, alert, alert, danger, 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 and then it just goes up. And then you sit down and you have them take your blood pressure and you go, oh my God, you know, a half an hour ago it was this. That's a really good example of the subtlety of stress. Okay, so just some things you can do. New things, new skills, new people, read new books, new styles of books, okay? Take a class. Learning a new language is really good. But also learning to read directions to learn a new activity is just as good. Okay, because what happens when you read directions? You kind of mentally map out what you're trying to do. You go, I gotta do this, 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 and this. And watch yourself when you do that. You're thinking in your brain, okay, it looks like this, and I go here, here. Finding this place for me was a wonderful exercise in learning a new activity, because this is a hidden spot here. And I'm driving around thinking like, what in the world? Where am I? But I did it. I felt good, so I did my new activity for the day. I learned how to find the senior center in O'Fallon. Artwork and craft work, really good, especially if it's new, or if it's a riff on something that you learn. But even if you if you are a woodworker and you try a new pattern, if you are an embroidery person and you try a new pattern or a new stitch, or if you like to crochet or quilt or whatever, there's always something new that you can do. And then engaging with other people. I don't know if there's like discussion groups where you can do debates or share points of view. Do they do those at senior centers, guys? No? No? Maybe yes? Okay. Whoops. This is just another one. Again, it's basically talking more about doing activities that are integrating activities like food and physical activity and things that you like to do. All right, here's some other things that you might find helpful. And the reason why I say you might find this helpful is because what we're trying to do, because our brains are changing and they don't work as fast and there's less capacity, what we're trying to do is conserve the amount of room up here to do those new things and to learn and to kind of enjoy life. So, you know, for your daily routines, just make sure you pace yourself and make sure it fits you. Most people will just intuitively kind of do things when they have a higher level of activity that require a lot of demand. When you do a task, usually there's two kinds of demand. There's the physical demand of actually having to do it, right? And then there's the mental demand of how much you have to concentrate. And then there's another demand that a lot of people don't really necessarily pay attention to, but there's an emotional demand to some of these tasks. Not all of them. I don't know if there's an emotional demand to doing laundry, but you know, to some of the tasks that we do, especially when you have to interact with others, there's an emotional. So what you can do is look at all those and go, which ones really take a lot of energy from me? Which ones are easy, they're no-brainers, and then which ones really kind of are moderate, I can stick them in. And then figure out a pace that works for you, okay? So and balance them out. I always tell people, if you're a morning person, you get lots of energy in the morning. I do my brain work in the morning because by the afternoons and the evening, my brain's like, nah, I can't do it anymore. I have to just stop. I can still take things in, but can I write like a science paper or something like that? No, I can't. It's hard for me to even read some student papers with a critical eye by that time of the day. So wherever your body is and whatever your body tells you, that's kind of how you pace yourself. Some other things you can do is declutter your home, okay? And I say this because your brain actually sees all that stuff laying around in your house. And sometimes if you're working okay, your filter is working all right, you just ignore it, right? But there's a lot of times when you're not ignoring it and your brain is actually going, that, and you just used a whole bunch of mental energy up on some of that. And if you can just declutter it, put it in places where you don't see it, get rid of it, whatever you want to do, that helps. Socialize, volunteer, give back. Those are other things. And then I always talk about memory because this is super, super important. It's okay not to be able to remember everything. It happens, right? It's not, and it doesn't define who you are at all, but you can use strategies. So, you know, you can actually learn how to, you know, you can organize information. You know, you can chunk it like a number, you know, in threes, chunk in threes and fours. That's a really good example of how you chunk it. You can associate things. So you can associate maybe somebody with the name of baker with somebody who bakes, and you can remember their name like that, right? You can have visual cues, Post-it notes. A lot of people put Post-it notes up, or notes on their refrigerator, or notes somewhere, or make a list. Things like that. Write things down. Everybody, you guys have planners that you use. Repeat things out loud. It's perfectly okay to go ahead and if you're trying to remember something, to repeat it out loud as many times as you take. And if it doesn't work for you to repeat it out loud, try to remember where the context of where you are and what you're saying and how it, and create an association and then repeat it out loud. And then mnemonics are another thing. It's just a kind of an abbreviation for something that you want to remember. Anybody know what this is? Yep. Yep, and what is that?
It's colors.
And the colors of?
The rainbow.
The rainbow, yep, yep. Yep. Very good. So you just spewed that one right off.
I used to work in a quilt store.
You used to work in what?
That's how we quilt store. That's how we organize it.
Oh, really? In a clothing store? Oh,
Quilt store.
oh, a quilt store. Oh, yeah. Talk about a visual trip. Quilt stores are fun, man. Okay. Yeah. So there's all kinds of links out there. How to keep your brain young. You'll get this on a handout, but There's a ton of information. Mayo has stuff, Cleveland Clinic has things, AARP, you know, has information. There's all kinds of stuff. Yep.
Is your PowerPoint available?
Yeah, it is. They'll email it to you, okay? Yeah, you're welcome. It makes a huge difference, I think. I think maybe next year we should maybe email it before. So if those of you who are savvy with your phones over there, I know you probably would have it pulled up, wouldn't you, if you could? We would have that. So, okay. Let's see, what else we have? I think that's it, you guys.